Hello and welcome to Talent Product Group podcast series by Toomas. Talent Product Group is all about exploring what we have done in Estonia to become the land of unicorns through the eyes of our product people. Today we're going to explore Bruna's unique insights and experiences that have shaped her into a formidable figure in the tech industry. Bruna has a rich background in market expansion and leading product, and she has an intriguing story of adapting to life in Estonia. Stay tuned as we discuss these topics. We're going to look for some interesting stories that have come up in her journey, revealing key takeaways that will inspire you to embrace change, drive innovation, and lead with confidence. So, without further ado, please welcome Bruna de Guimarães. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you come to Estonia and what is your relationship with Estonia?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. But so how I fell in love with Estonia, however Estonia came into my life. I was living in Brazil. I come from Brazil originally, and I landed on an exchange program to actually go to Estonia. At the time when I applied for the program, it was very last minute, so I had to do it in the next months, and they told me I could choose a country, but based on the last ones that were available. So they gave me Mexico, Ecuador, and Estonia as the options. And I already knew how to speak Spanish. So I thought to myself, well, I didn't even know Estonia was a country. This was back in 2010, 2011. And I thought, why not try it out and go and see Estonia? I landed in Haapsalu, very tiny city, left the capital of Brazil for this very small town, and it was like the biggest cultural shock ever, but it was the best experience of my life. I got to know a country and people that just opened up my eyes, and it was the best time of my life. I stayed there for 5 years. I moved after 1 year in Haapsalu. I moved to Tallinn to do university. So I went to TTU there and studied law there. And but since I still had my host family in Haapsalu, I was going every weekend to the family house and just to living the traditional Estonian life. So I was not living the expat life. I only had Estonian friends. I was very much immersed into the Estonian culture until I landed in Pipedrive, which was also it's a big Estonian, I think, brand out in the world. When I finished law school, I decided to work very little in the area, and I hated everything about it. But I had a Brazilian friend by coincidence that was working at Pipedrive. The company at the time was very small. It was about 20 people or so. And he asked me if I wanted to do some market analysis for them, do like a summer project. And I went there, did it, and that's kind of how my role also continued in Estonia in Pipedrive and ended as well in the SaaS industry.
But in Haapsalu, as I understand, you came for the high school program, and
Yeah. So I finished high school already in Brazil, but it was a high school program in the end. So I ended up being just a listener and a watcher at a school there in Haapsalu. And I remember till today it's a Wiedemanni Gymnasium. It was really nice. And was just listening to my whole role in 1 year was to learn Estonian and to just immerse in the culture. So I was just going to all the lessons, all the classes. I was in math class in Estonian and like physics in Estonian, and you're just like, what? But it was a really great experience. I have a diploma actually that is telling me that I participated in the classes. I didn't need to do exams, but I participated in the classes.
and then you started studying law. Did you practice law at all, or you went straight for pipe drive and?
No, I practice it very little. So in between this exchange year and moving to Tallinn, I went back to Brazil because I mean, that was the plan, right? You stay 1 year in the country, I'll go back. And I could not let go of Estonia in my mind. So, but during this time, it was about 4 months or so, I started the university in Brazil, of law, because I thought this would be what I wanted to do or what I needed to do at the time. And then after those 4 months, I actually had a moment of craziness inside me and decided, you know what, I'm just going to buy my ticket. I'm just going to go. I don't care. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't notify anyone of my family or of my friends. Like a couple of days before I left, I just said, "Hey, I'm leaving," and I already had the spot at TTU to transfer all the stuff from the university, and then I graduated there, and then worked 3 months as a lawyer. But that's when I said, "No, I can't do this. I will move to something completely different."
How did your family react to you going to the, for them, it seems most likely to the other side of the world totally?
Yeah, they they felt, of course, they missed me a lot. It took me, it's very far away. It's not the like going for a 1 hour trip. But I think my family always raised me, or they knew I was very much a person of the world. I was not going to stay home. I really enjoyed these types of experiences. So I think it was, of course they were sad about it. Why does it have to be so far away? Couldn't it be somewhere maybe closer, or somewhere where it's known? Because they had no idea what to expect as well from Estonia, where like what's the culture that she's actually gonna lend into. No one knows about it, or no one knew about it before me. And and then they were a bit skeptical, but they approved it, and now they are also the biggest, I think, influencers of Estonia in my hometown. So
But as you landed in Estonia, what was like the biggest culture shock? Then you said that it was a really big culture shock for you.
there is, yeah, the biggest culture shock. There's a couple, and there was one of them was, I remember arriving at my host family's house, and my like I got to know some people that were going to study with me in this year. So they reached out to me at the time with Facebook, and said, "Do you want to meet us and you can get to know us a bit more?" And I said yes. But so I went to my host mom and I said, "Is it okay if I go?" Like I mean, 17 years old. "Is it okay if I go and I meet my friends? I'll be back like in an hour. Could you take me there?" And she's like, "Take you there? It's Haapsalu. Go walking, and yeah, go whatever, do what you want to." Or like, it was very free. It was really weird because it's not that I lived in a prison in Brazil, but because of security reasons, everyone needs to take you from point A to point B. You need to go with a parent of someone. You need to be very much protected, I think, in a way for security wise, because it's very dangerous, and especially as a girl. And my host mom was, and I learned afterwards, I mean, how safe it is, but it's just also a culture of like, you're in high school, you're responsible for you, you're independent, you are just go and do what you want to. You're the one that has to deal with it afterwards. If you go out, if you don't go to school, is school the same thing? People just sometimes went to school or they didn't. It was up to them to decide, and that was really weird. And the second thing that was really, that I even came out because the Haapsalu newspaper, Lane Elo, they did this piece on me, asking all of these cultural differences. And the first thing that my host mom said, that she was in shock because she asked me to remove the sheets of the bed to put it to wash. And what I did is I literally just put everything, like I just grabbed it all and put it on the washing machine. And I didn't remove the blanket actually from the thing. Yeah. And in Brazil we don't do that. We always have two pieces. We have the actual blanket, and we have the light one. So because it's very hot, and also you have most of the time, like places, you have someone that cleans it for you. Its service is cheap. And she was so in shock. She was like, "What? You don't know how to remove it? You don't even know that there is actually a blanket inside this material?" So this was also a very funny first impression of Estonia.
But then you started studying in Tallinn University of Technology. Did you do the bachelor's there?
Hmm. Yeah, I went to study there. I mean, there were the two options, right? Tallinn University or Tallinn or TTU at the time. And my best friend from Haapsalu, that she also moved to Tallinn, and she was also going to start university. She started TTU, and then I was like, you know what? Then I'm just gonna apply there. I know some people that are studying there. Then that's my way to go, and ended up being very very great. And I got to know a lot of people, and that's also where I got to know this Brazilian friend of mine that was working at Pipedrive at the time. So we started connecting the groups of people, the like that was my first Brazilian community I found in Tallinn. It was still pretty small, but it was these little communities that met once in a while, or a Latino community also, where I met Maria, that also worked at Pipedrive. So it was basically the beginning of starting my connection to at which one day would become Pipedrive.
Talk a little bit more about your journey in Pipedrive. How did it go? What did you do there? What was your first task that you had to solve?
Yeah, Pipedrive was the, I want to say, the best experience possible. I think also everyone that joined at that time had a really beautiful chance of seeing a company with such a strong culture and such a strong product market fit, everything so special, and be part of that, especially in the beginning. When I joined, as I said, it was very small. The company had very little people, 20 something in that direction. And I was hired. My friend said that they were looking for someone to do some market analysis for them. It wasn't really clear what it was or what was needed, but one of the founders had a department that was creating a department called New Markets. So he was traveling the world trying to understand the or make partnerships or trying to talk to companies around the world to also sell Pipedrive at the time. And they realized that there might be something interesting happening in different markets. Maybe there is a chance of entering those places. And the idea was I would come in with my logical potential background of actually exploring what market would be interesting for Pipedrive to move next. The localization was starting, so what was a really cool thing about the department was that we're already pushing a lot of languages out of the box for the product. And my task was to figure out, based on the data that we have, based on the KPIs that we see, based on market potential, where would it be interesting for us to go next. And we saw, and that was when I focused on South America. So I realized that it was a really big interest of people in South America, really big interest of people, of companies in South America towards Pipedrive, and especially in Brazil. There's a really big organic growth happening there, and not really a product that would be as good as Pipedrive entering the market. The biggest one at the time was just Salesforce. That was it. Salesforce to be competitive in the market, and people in Brazil didn't have the money to pay for a product like that. So they started exploring Pipedrive, and Pipedrive started happening in Portuguese. The product was in Portuguese, and my task was then slowly developing what product strategies we should implement in different markets to make sure that then there is a product market fit. How can we adapt this product to these places? And then that the sales team would come in afterwards with their sales strategies. And that happened through localization, that happened through pricing strategies, that happened through multiple different things, in which in the end we define, okay, this is the place that we're going to go next, this is the place we're going to go next.
What were you struggling the most when you went to the new markets?
It was about the biggest struggle, I would say. It was getting information about the user. So we got public knowledge up to a certain extent, but what we realized is that I figured it wasn't enough to just know and get information from what was out there and from what was in the public. We needed to talk to the users. We needed to understand. We needed to connect more with the market. So really understand who is behind that CRM, who will be the one inputting the data in the CRM, and that was a strategy then of, hey, I will try to find partners in these countries, partners in Brazil that has this connection to these customers, that have the connection to these clients and these users. And then we can also learn from them, what do we need to do in order to adapt the strategy.
If today uh, you would be in the position, in the same position, what would you do differently, as you have many years of new experiences?
I think I would minimize the amount of time we took by doing manual analysis. Nowadays, as well, we have multiple technologies that can help with that, with AI and so on, that could reduce a lot of this. I remember spending hours and hours researching informations from places to places. So this would be definitely one of the things. And nowadays, I learned a lot through my time of how important connecting with people in different places and different industries is important. So now I have built a network of people in different countries that I can come in and ask these questions. So I would do that also straight away and in a way faster way, because I have built this pipeline of people and knowledgeable people that have done this before and has gone through this before as well.
Were there any uh, big mistakes that you remember that today definitely would avoid, if you would have to do it again?
I remember we were building the affiliate program, the reselling channel, the integration partnership, the whole partnership program as well, because that was also the start of it. And I remember we were overthinking it too much. I remember being trying to be perfect about how the affiliates needs, like how everything needs to work. And if it would be today, I would, and I think that was a mistake as well. It's more about just doing, get a feedback, see if there's traction, see if it works. Do it, for example, like a tell a friend at first, and really just go with it until there is more traction before overthinking too much the program, because maybe sometimes you can overthink too much a program and it doesn't work, and you have to redo it again later on, changing the strategies, changing the methodologies. And I think this was one of the mistakes that we did, of overthinking it in the beginning. Not that it was not needed, but I think it was done too early.
Why do you think the overthinking happened? Was it some internal desire to be perfect, or what was the reason behind that?
I don't think so. I actually think Pipedrive was very free when it came to the departments. It was very much about being transparent about the goal that you have, and you have the freedom and the liberty to do so. So I don't think there was a lot of the micromanaging. I think it was actually my fault, my trying to please everyone. And I realized later in my life that there's no such thing, and it will not be the case. But when you're also young and it's your first job and you're trying to prove to everyone, I think I did this overthinking. I wanted to prove to everyone and to myself as well, but in a perfectionist way.
I've understood this as well, that I really like the Pareto principle, the 2080. And if you think of it, if you spend 20% time to get to the 80%, now if you multiply it by 5, then you get 400% of work done, compared to trying to push for the last 20%, which takes 80% of the time, right? Um, so this is something which you learn when you have worked a little, not on your first job, and that's the crazy part. Nobody
That's so
tells you
true.
that.
Nobody tells you that. This is one of those lessons that it doesn't matter how many times you can tell someone, they kind of need to go through it themselves.
Can you talk a little bit more about opening the Portuguese markets and how how did it expand so fast, and what were the reasonings behind there, uh, other than Salesforce being the only competitor?
Yeah, it was about, first of all, the language and the market necessity. Right? So I said the market necessity. There is the language aspect. So straight from the beginning, Pipedrive also managed to bring a lot of Brazilian employees into the company, which helped as well to localize the product and also bring, for example, customer support in Portuguese. So um, then the third thing was when we decided to enter these markets and actually create strategies for example, for Brazil, we went to conferences in Brazil. We partnered with the biggest lead generation company in Brazil. So that was really the best, I would say, strategy that we could do moving forward, because they understood the market and they had really the top of the funnel clients, right? So um, every client that would receive their like, they would talk to them and be like, okay, I have all of these leads, what am I going to do now with these leads? And then they're like, well, you can put it in Pipedrive. And that was also a selling point for us, that was really good. And I think going to conferences, talking to the users, having the support, this customer support team that was really connected to the users. We had for a very, very long time phone support, chat support. So having people working also at Pipedrive from support shifts that would support Brazilian time zone. Nowadays, it's not really needed anymore, but I think this was a key differentiator at the time of really having people being able to talk to these users in different time zones, and also created the culture within Pipedrive.
So, as I understand now, today you are consulting other companies, and expanding to new markets comes uh, often into play. What do you see that they are making? What are the biggest mistakes that they are making that everybody should avoid?
Yeah, there's multiple mistakes. One that comes at the moment to my mind is what I see on a day-to-day basis is a lack of communication between teams of the business side and team of the tech side. It's You have different strategies, you have different ICPs or different ideal customer profiles, you have different KPIs. the This can happen because either your product manager is not fully empowered, or your C level is not really aligned. You don't really know the problem you're trying to solve, but um, there's just, what's the strategy for the sales team? What's the strategy for the tech team? An example for this, for example, is even so I was one company I was consulting. They The person that bought the software is completely different than the person that uses the software. The person that would buy it would be a COO, head of HR, and the person that would use the product is anyone else in the company, whatever position you will be. And that was for big companies. So what often happen is you have this issue of this COO says, oh, but I need that feature to be implemented or else I'm not going to be able to sell the product. And then the tech team gets very frustrated, the product team gets very frustrated because, well, it's completely out of our roadmap. It's not at all tailored to our target persona, our user. It makes no sense, and it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work. And then you see the sales side saying, oh, but I know a friend that implemented this in 2 weeks and they said it will be the easiest thing to do. And then you have the tech team saying, no, it's not that easy. It's more complicated because of this and this and that. It starts creating these clashes between the teams that in the end is a misalignment between the C level, as I said. It's maybe the product manager as well, not owning the position that they have, and doing the job that they need to do, being this mini CEO of a company. Um, and it might be this misalignment as well of their customer profile. Who is exactly that they're selling it to? Might even be that they are they forgot, if they're bigger enough, that they forgot what problem are they actually solving with their product. It can also be that they forgot who are they selling it to. They can get very tied with the new things that are coming in, with so many inputs of stakeholders, that you can lose your focus, you can lose your base. And that's really one of the number one problems I see in companies. Number two that I see often happening is the famous, I love to call it a Control C, Control V, which is companies trying to trying to copy methodologies. So, for example, I saw the example that I said with this company did it in 2 weeks. Let's do it in hours. But also within product teams of saying, hey, the Spotify model, I read this somewhere, and let's implement this in the company. You have to adapt it to your own strategy, to your own culture, to your own team. You cannot just Control C, Control V. It's that's a recipe for failure, actually, and that happens in multiple aspects in the companies. And the third topic that I think it's very big and it happens very often is actually ignoring data. The amount of people, the amount of companies that don't even know what's the user journey towards their activation rate, for example. Like, they have no idea what steps the user needs to do in order to actually achieve the value in your product, or understand where is the users falling off in the sign up process, for example. Really just onboarding. They feel like you can just input features as much as possible and that will improve data, but actually in the end it could be way more in the beginning of the funnel, where we need to improve, we need to explain, we need to have a better communication, or adapt the product, polish the product, remove things, remove hurdles. And companies tend to forget that.
Just to wrap up, as I understand correctly, so the first point is misalignment in teams, not understanding what is the goal to that we're trying to achieve as a team together when we're expanding to new markets.
Yeah.
Second,
or not only in new markets, but in general.
In general, okay.
Yeah.
Second is trying to copy everything that people see,
Yeah.
and not making it your own. And the third one, ignoring data. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. But when we're talking about the first point, misalignment in teams, and the goal, and talking specifically about opening new markets, who should run the show, and make sure that the market, when we're talking about not a large company, a smaller company is 20 to 100 people.
It should be actually the person. So if you're calling yourself a business developer or a product manager, however, will be this person responsible for opening these doors in new markets. At the time, my title was business development, but it was actually a product manager of this little squad. Is about contacting and talking to as many people as possible, as many stakeholders as possible. So being close to the customer team, to the customer success team, to the customer support team, to the sales team, to the tech team, understanding all of these aspects and taking the ownership of being curious about things, of being trying to understand the why behind everything, and be very much a doer. So I think these people need to have these two perspectives of being curious about it. So just go after information after information after information about the user. And the second thing is and make a communication. So communicate with all of those departments. So you really need to be able to communicate with all of these departments, all of these people, make sure that everyone is aligned towards the same goal, aligned towards the same vision, and implement these as well with the different departments. So
how do you make sure that the management has gives the buy-in, so to say, for to make it actually happen, that everybody is aligned? Because usually the problem starts from the top, right? If the management is not aligned, even if you give it to somebody else. How do you avoid that problem?
It, as you said, I mean, there's only much you can do as a product manager. If the C level is not aligned, then it's as a recipe for failure. But you need to be able to have this conversation as well with the C level and understand and show the why. That's why I really emphasize a lot this word, because I think even you as a C level, and I worked that as well in other companies, that if I went to them and put together the C levels and say, hey, this is the problem and this is why we're not reaching it and this is what we need to do in order to reach it, why? They want the company to succeed. And if you tell them, just give me this shot and I will try it out. And if it doesn't work for X amount of time, happy to do it your way. But you have to have the balls and you have to have the guts to tell them, hey, this is not working. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not an easy job. And I'm not saying it always works. But if you join a company that wants to succeed and the C levels are also wanting to make sure that it goes into the right direction, I really think that having the balls to come to them and talk about it is number one thing you can implement every single day.
So product managers stand up to your management,
A
and
100%.
so the employee has the suggestion, but the manager has the context.
Hmm.
So that's the idea of trying to, or you can have the suggestion as a product manager, and the management has the context, so they can make the decision. So you have to make the recommendation. This is what should be done, not the, okay, let's go with your plan, management. I
Exactly.
cut
Yeah.
them.
Exactly, because then you're not owning it. You're not owning the situation. I like actually really like the term as well of product owner, because you own something. You're not just managing something. It's the same thing of calling someone your manager or your leader or your, like, it's your boss or your leader. And I like the term, even though if you're not using agile methodologies or whatever it is, but the word of product owner is a really nice term for that. And as I said, I don't think it's easy. I'm not saying like, oh, every C level, if you reach out to them and like they're gonna follow it. No, but I think there's often a lot of missed opportunities because people don't want to face or tell their opinion in front of leaders. And that's also their fault. I mean, there can also be that they don't open don't create the environment, right? We can also talk about, I'm being very generalized here, I really want to make sure that people understand this. But there could be more, and there's a lot of problems that could be solved if product managers, product owners, whatever you call business developers, would come in and talk and openly give their opinion about something.
When we move to the second point that you said, copy pasting everything. How often does it happen with opening new markets?
Oh, a lot, a lot. Right? It's like, oh, I sold it to my German clients in that way, so now I need to do the same in the States or the same in Brazil or vice versa. How many companies are coming from the States trying to come to Germany, for example, and they do it exactly the same way and they don't get any traction. They they don't know what's wrong, but we did everything right in the States. It's a common mistake that companies do trying to sell the same product to a completely different market. These people have different cultures, they have different languages, they have different economical backgrounds. One example as well is if you're a software company, multiple software companies trying to go to Brazil, and implementing, the only way to pay for the software is using international credit cards. Not even 1% of Brazil has international credit cards. Everything in Brazil is done with a payment method called boleto. If anyone that has worked with Brazilian payment methods knows how annoying this is, it's like an invoice. And it's hell to implement it. Nowadays, of course, there's more companies doing it, but you have to change it. Or, for example, the country doesn't speak English. You're like, oh, but I have English and my software is in English. Everyone will understand it. No, not every culture speaks English. Not everyone knows how to speak it. Um, And that goes for multiple other examples. I mean, pricing as well, right? So I'll put the same price as I do for Germany. I'll do it for let's put example Croatia. I mean, Croatia doesn't make as much money as Germany. So, of course, then if you price tag something that high, you're not going to receive that many customers because they just don't have the economic power.
I mean, in Europe we have like Europe is very fragmented, and how would you solve it in Europe? Because throwing more people at the problem um, usually creates more problems. How would you solve expanding through Europe if you want to, I don't know, get ten new countries in 3 years?
I think there's a couple of different ways. One of my favorite ones is through language. So you can go and see, okay, so if I, for example, localize my product in Spanish and German, I have a very big, like you have different markets that you can actually tailor to, and then you can A/B test it within those markets. Just try it out and see different pricing strategies, partnerships with these with people in those countries, companies in those countries, finding a key partner in those places, or finding different methods of entry for if it is from a free trial, if it is for a freemium version, whatever it will be. Also, that it is a easier to implement because it's really important. Let's not try to create a bigger issue in the product to enter something that we don't know yet. But is there something, also talk to your product team, right? Is there something we can do in the product that would be easy to adapt and that it would also be beneficial to our customers? For example, an integration that could be interesting, that could potentially be as well a framework for another one for that we are wanting to do on one of the big markets that we're actually going to go. But going through languages, and I would say A/B test the hell out of pricing strategies. There's multiple ways that you can do this today, um, and I think this is one of those key things that could really help you define and see, based then on data, where it makes sense and where it does not. um, so this is one. The second thing I would say is, if you are not wanting to go into a market that is already crowded, because Spanish speaking, German speaking is also where people are trying to go, right? But try to get a customer of yours. Look at your customer base, right? If you already have specific customers in Europe, for example, there might be one or two customers that are in specific countries. You would be impressed how much people your user base is willing to sell for you. You would be impressed of how many people, users of your product, would be willing to do things for free for you. Um, and I would really leverage that. I would really make sure that, like, if they love your product, go and test it out, try talk to them. Maybe they have a connection with you of ideas of how can you get into conferences or your brand out there, or partnerships, any other thing that you can do in order to grow in that market, so you can also adapt to that. You would be surprised about that. People don't often talk to their customers, and they think, oh, I don't know, maybe there's one, like, I don't have anyone in Albania. And you're like, maybe you do. Maybe it's interesting. Maybe no one is there. Maybe no one is giving a product to them, and you can actually enter and make a difference by doing something very simple, which is talking to your customer.
How do you localize the product pricing strategies? For me, as a customer or consumer, if you can check the other, I don't know, other languages and see the pricings, I don't know, three times difference, and you're like, I will sign up with that language. Or how do you do it in order not to create problems that come up with it?
I think the best thing to do is actually implement a pricing software as soon as possible, because they do it for you, right? So you don't need to do this yourself. So if you get a Stripe, if you get a Chargebee, a Paddle, whatever it will be, company that can help you with subscription management, and they can adapt the pricing for you, and also they have the benchmarks of those markets for you, based on their customers. It's one of those things as well that I would, if I would open my own company, like my own software company nowadays, I would do it as fast as possible, because they will solve a lot of my pains of actually researching and implementing this manually, and actually do it through a company that actually knows what they're doing.
But the question a little bit remains is that me as a customer, if I see that in Germany the price is, I don't know, 100 euros a month, and in Spain it's 50 euros.
That happens. I mean, that happens, right? I mean, you have, how many people do you have that has Netflix in Vietnam or something like that? Like, that they are paying, they use VPN, and then they get manage to acquire then, for a cheaper price, the software. I think that just, unfortunately, it happens. People do that, but that's not the mass market. And if they, of course, people want to pay less, but that's, we shouldn't, if we're making the user go through the trouble of going and installing a VPN and going to Spain or going to Croatia or going to whichever country it will be in order to pay less, then we're not really also showing the value that we have, because we shouldn't be discussing the price. We should actually be discussing the value, and they should be willing to pay that price for the product that you have. And if you're starting and you don't have any customers, and that's the question, then you need to change your pricing for sure. You need to reduce it. You need to try a different method. You need to look into your, also your onboarding process. Maybe it's not the price, but maybe it's the communication that you're doing with your user. They are not really understanding the value of the product, or they don't know what you're actually doing. There's multiple things.
When do the companies usually come for help? Are they like 3 months away from crashing the wall, or they realize quite early that, yeah, we don't know how to actually do it? Let's ask for help.
It's actually interesting. They're not crashing, but they are on a verge of getting investment. So they start applying, or they start creating their pitch decks, and they realize that they're not getting any return, where the investors say, no, it's not really, there's not enough data, or there's not enough information, or this doesn't make sense. A lot of VCs, um, and they're trying to either enter, like, their post Series A, and then their VCs ask them, hey, you need someone to come in and to help you with those things, or they're going into Series B, and then they need my help in order as well um, to fix those problems. But the problems that they come to me with is, most of the time, is, hey, my tech team doesn't know how to talk to my sales team. That's 99% of the case. So could you please come in and talk to my product manager, because they're too inexperienced. So they're too young, or I need someone to be able to guide them and teach them how important it is, actually, the user, the sales requests. It's always like that. That's my entry door.
So the sales team has the buy-in from the management to get the consultant to help you make the technical team understand that sales need to be listened.
Yes. Yeah. That's the door. That's the door. But we're changing a lot. There's a lot of communication happening in conferences and different things, which I'm happy, because because that's, as I said, there was no communication around product before as well. It's the first time I see more and more people talking about the role of product in software companies, and what does it mean. And if you're a software company, your product is actually the core of your business, and people didn't treat it as a core of the business. And this is a long way coming from the past of, before, as a salesperson, you earn the most in the company. You are also, like, trying to sell whatever, even if it doesn't exist, you just sell something. Um, and there is a shift now of creating this hierarchy of, in the company, this flat hierarchy in the company of the roles. But how important actually the product is, because you cannot just sell something if the user will not use it. The word of profitability, the word of retention. So the word profitability, the word retention, um, the word activation rate. It's all words that are mega important that companies tend to forget. They were just thinking about what's my MRR, what's my conversion rate from trial to paying customer, or just to paying customer. Have I done my quota of the month? Have we um, reached the forecast that we actually presented to the investors? But there's so much more behind that, and you can also make so much more money based on existing clients than actually new clients. So focusing more on these topics, that has been a change as well from the economic situation around the world, has helped a shift as well in communication of companies and what this the new founders and new entrepreneurs are looking for as well, to understand, and also way more open to hearing these things, and to hearing that they need to learn, that they need to be that they're interested in this topic, that they want to as well act. I have a customer, for example, now that he is the CEO of the company, and he's trying to be more of a product manager in the company, and that's grounded him so much more of understanding why, the famous why, about every single side. Um, and yeah, so I think this is one of those nice examples that we need to bring more them, like humble them down a little bit more, but the market is helping that happen day by day.
So if you say that usually it's Series A moving towards Series B companies, which uh, I kind of get the feeling that it's the uh, salespeople who have they already have all of the low hanging fruits. That sales is done, and now the sales gets hard because you don't have any more low hanging fruits in the market, and the sales is not going. The sales salary is dropping, and now it's the fault of the tech guys and not building what is being asked, right? Um, so trying to pawn off the actual problem of, hey, let's let's figure it out together, right?
Exactly, exactly. That's one problem. But there's also on the other side as well, of they managed to get until Series A by creating a product, for example, that's completely a mess. Like they have, there's one customer of mine that the product, you look at it, they are all in the famous all-in-one solution. I love this term, all-in-one solution. And because they wanted, it started completely sales led, right? It's a software company, and they started approaching multiple people, multiple customers, and like, okay, so if you do this feature, I'm gonna buy it. If you do this feature, I'm gonna buy it. I'll buy a year contract, I'll buy a yearly contract. They started creating this massive software, that now they got to a point that they can still sell and add additional things, but they lost completely the, like there's a tons of those low hanging fruits that needs to be done: onboarding experience, polishing specific features, creating a better UX and a better UI for the user. But they are they now are thinking about fixing that problem and not actually doing that from the beginning. So this is also one of those cases that you're like, this is a mess. You go into the product, you need someone to literally handhold you and explain you every single detail, because or else you're not going to be able to do any of it. It's not self-explanatory, but they say that that it is a self-explanatory software, and they are a PLG software. They implement the PLG strategy, and it's you see that happening constantly as well.
What's
Mhm.
your suggestion there? Scrap it all and build it from scratch, or
I would say it depends on the money of the company. It depends on the situation of the company. So if it's an exit strategy, for example, I would say don't go with a scrappy doll. Maybe depends on what's the company actually, what's the value of the company, right? So if it's, I don't believe it's the architecture because it's a mess. But if it's the team and so, then it's not worth to invest on building a new architecture. But if you actually want to scale and you actually want to grow more, then you better do it as early as possible. Scrap it all completely, and have a team, for example, to do it and focus specifically on that. It's a long term process, but you're going to be happy you've done it earlier than later in your life, or maybe start creating a plan, right? So I also don't I'm not a fan of stopping everything you're doing and focusing on one thing at like all in that. You cannot also stop developing features, improving things, fixing bugs. It's not possible. But if you feel like your time is fully on regression issues and bug fixing, you have to do something about your architecture. Really, it's just you have to change something about it. Hire someone, get a consultant, get a fractional CTO, talk to someone that's able to understand and get multiple opinions. Get multiple opinions is really important. And draft a strategy. Maybe do like 1 month here, 1 month there, or do one technical debt ticket together with one epic, together with one improvement. Rest is bug fixing. Like create strategies, which we tend to think as well that for us to deliver value to the users every month, we need to create crazy big features. You would be impressed how much a small little color change somewhere might make a customer happy, or a text somewhere, or like something very little, these very low hanging fruits that would make a big impact. And for you, as on a technical effort, it was lower, and you could focus then on your technical debts that actually has a way higher priority, for example.
Do you have any other cool stories that recently have come up where you thought that you're going to solve this one problem and it turns out it's a mess and you need to go dive deep in to the individual contributor work as a product manager, get everybody aligned and understand the problem? Did you
Yeah,
have you had anything similar recently?
there is one company that I'm working with, and I was hired to mentor their leadership team. So it would be to really make sure that they're aligned, they're C-level, that they're good. It was supposed to be actually a very easy job. I was there 1 hour a week just to align on leadership strategies and maybe things of thinking about remote work and how can they improve on those things. Very simple. The company is a mess. No one knows what their roles is in the company. Um, they didn't have a head of product before, so the CEO was doing all the job and coding at the same time. So he's a CTO, CEO, coder, and the amount of input that they're like receiving from stakeholders of like different VCs that are coming in, from different advisors, from different accelerator programs, from different conferences, and talking to the users and talking all of that. Every single day they change their strategy. Every single day you talk to them today, next day is something completely different happening, and very much in different directions. So we managed to hire a head of product, and I'm helping this head of product as well to develop these strategies on also how to handle the product team. And that's where I had to go a bit more hands on into it and really sit down with him and like, okay, let's build a roadmap for the next 3 months, so for the next quarter. I'm not telling you to build a roadmap of features. Let's please not do that. But really, what's your strategy? What do you want to accomplish in 3 months? Because right now, you need to be this person that's actually going to tell them, hey, this is what we're going to do because of this and this and that. So let's create a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and let's do this together. I'm here with you. And let's then adapt this as well through the rest of the company, because this is going to be our north star for the next months. And the same thing then happened with the CEO. I was like, okay, let's sit down and let's create what are the roles and responsibilities of everyone here in this company. Let's sit down. Let's literally get a piece of paper and align who is responsible for what. I'm not saying that there is a direct line and there won't be any people stepping on each other's toes. But right now it's just a mess. So no structure on any sense, no pricing alignment. So every customer gets a different price. They're making good money, but like there is zero alignment. Everything there is a mess. Everyone um yeah, they just don't have any kind of structure on their day to day.
Hearing this, I get a little bit of feeling that usually when people go into the CTO role, they're very experienced technical people. They have been coding for years. They have led some projects, and then they get to the CTO role, and then they understand at one point that they cannot code anymore. They don't have time enough to code. And now having the CEO in the same person as a CTO, I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of things that the CEO has to do, but putting it into the same person as a CTO, then it it creates the
Exactly.
problem of, okay, where do we focus? What are we doing? You have to think from the technical side and then the business side, and having it everything in your own head, it doesn't work.
It doesn't. And that's exactly, it's a therapy work. No joke. It's a therapy work because I have to sit down with him constantly and say, hey, you need to decide what you want to do in your, like, what you want to focus on. If you want to be the CTO, you can be the CTO. If you want to keep coding, you can keep coding, but then you have to let go of your CEO responsibilities. But he doesn't want to let go of the CEO responsibilities. And it doesn't work. You cannot fulfill those two jobs at the same time. The company will just not move forward. So it's about picking your battles and understanding and being able to delegate, because to a lot of those founders as well, it's their baby. It's hard for them to let go. They've been doing this. No one is able to do it the way that I would do it, and they will do it wrong or they do it bad. They don't live and breathe the company the way that I have lived and breathed the company. Yeah, but that's good. You need to as well teach them of how that's actually good, how that's actually going to benefit. And the things that they need to focus time on is actually the things that are not only important to them, of course, but where actually they can help more, where they're not actually being hurdles and stones in the middle of the way of the company. And they need to understand that as well.
So, how much of the average consulting is actually just leadership psychology versus actually being the fractional CPO that people are at first trying to hire for?
I would say 70%, 80% of it. It's therapy, it's psychology for sure. It's a lot. It's a lot because it's also, there's the two sides of someone is bringing that they're bringing someone from outside that are telling them that they're not doing their job right, and I need to build their trust with that. I need to gain their trust. I need to make sure that they understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. Um, and also come with facts a lot, right? So I cannot just say, hey, you're doing that wrong, and that's that. No, like you're doing this and this and that, and need to be empathetic, need to understand their position, need to know how to talk to them. And it's often a big role of this conversation of getting this trust into their side. And then they need to want to do this with you as well, right? So if they see that it's something that is a constant thing that they are hearing from other people, from the team, from the investors, they are more willing as well to accept it because it comes from outside as well and not from inside. And I think this is also where it can be a bit it can help.
That's what I actually wanted to ask. Is like, inside the company, are the people struggling to achieve that trust, and that's why external person is brought in? They actually have the ideas, they actually have the solutions, but they don't have the trust, or what's the main issue there?
I think it's a psychological issue of if you hear it from your for inside, and it shouldn't be the case, but if you hear it from the inside, you're more willing to say, no, I know what's better for you. But someone from the outside is looking, you're more willing to accept it. I don't know why yet. It's a psychological question. Maybe something for your next guest as a therapist to come in. But it's in general like that. It's the same thing if you're having a fight with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? And they tell you, "Oh, you did that." You're like, "No, I didn't. No, I not at all." But then you talk to a friend and about it, and then the friend says, "Yeah, you actually did that." And then you're able to say, "Yeah, true, I actually could have done something different, or I could have done this, or I could have done that." It's maybe it's a human situation, unfortunately.
And the weird part is the internal person actually has more knowledge on the problems and the issues and has the context. And then you have to bring the external person in, teach them all of that context, and then and whoever gives the context usually wins the argument in the management.
100%. And this is one of the things I love to do when I come into companies. So even though the C level like is the one working with me, even though they're the ones also that hires me, I like to talk to everyone in the company that I can, as many people as possible. I like to join meetings, hear who is speaking up, who is not, who is asking questions, who's not. If I can reach out to some of them, if there is a person that I look and I see that they're rolling their eyes maybe in the meeting, like I want to talk to them, I want to hear them, I want to understand why. If there's someone that's always communicating, giving the ideas, I also want to talk to them. I also want to understand why are they like that, what's the difference, are they from different departments, are they doing different jobs, what's going on. And this is important for my job as well to work, and for me as well to gain in the end their trust, because I can also align with what the company is seeing, because they are the ones that have been living and breathing these things in the past months, or how many years the company has been going. But then I also can bring this outside and external perspective for the C level to adapt their strategy and adapt their leadership, or
So, looking back at your career so far, um, as you're doing consulting at the moment, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when you were starting out?
be curious. Don't be afraid of being curious. Don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't be afraid of the uncomfortable. I think it's one of those things that, for you not only to grow in your career, but also for you to succeed in your job, if you are a product manager, if you, especially if you're a product manager, but no matter where, in which direction you're going to go, you need to be curious. You need to want to understand the people in the company, the user, people around you. And you need to want to put yourself in these uncomfortable situations to just be able to grow and to be able to see different perspectives. If you're stuck into your little box, you're not really able to see from different angles. And I wish I would have discovered that earlier in my career.
Who are the people that you follow that influence your way of thinking?
Yeah, there's couples. There's, of course, I mean, from a inspirational aspect, I never had a female mentor in my life. I had a lot of male mentors, thankfully very good ones, of course. But Michelle Obama is very inspirational to me. How she approaches life, how she approaches problems, how she deals with business in life, and how she brings also different aspects of her career and different places into one. Like, it's not just, hey, I'm a lawyer and I'm following this, hey, I'm a politician, I'm doing that, but it managed to merge and bring a different perspective and bring a different light. um and there's two other people. One of them is my mentor. He was my boss at Pipedrive for some time. Tom McCarty. He saw light in me there, and he was one of he's until today one person that I always want to be the leader that he was or he is. And I think this is one of those beautiful things. If anyone can get a mentor, because it will teach you a lot about who you want to be, what you want to do, and like just be inspired by that as well. So um I think these are the two people I would put together.
How could listeners be helpful to you, and how can they contact you?
Yeah, please, I mean, of course, any feedback, any comment is very welcome. As I said multiple times, I love different perspectives. I appreciate talking about it, and seeing how you guys have dealt with these problems, or any other problem that you might have. Happy as well to listen and to learn from you. You can contact it. You can contact me via my website. So my website is called bebold.business. So the company is called Be Bold. And on my LinkedIn, I will not say my name here because it's a very complex name. It might be on the link be attached to the episode, but the easiest way is really through the website bebold.business.
And do you have any final thoughts or advice to our listeners?
Just, as I said, embrace the uncomfortable, be curious about everything, about every different perspective. You will be surprised about how much it's going to open your mind and open your head and actually enhance your career. And thank you very much for listening to this monologue.
Thank you, Bruna, for joining us at Tallinn Product Group podcast.
Suur aitäh!
If you liked today's episode, please make sure to subscribe at tpg.ee as then you are first to receive an email about the podcast and blog posts by Tallinn Product Group team. Thank you and see you soon.